Elizabeth, why don't you start us off as a co-host and guest?
Okay, so I am a podcaster, podcast consultant, and I own a podcast studio, founded a podcast studio, and I have Passage to Profit Show podcast. I'm the co-host of that, starting a podcast in January that I'm the co-host called AI and Business Use Cases from the Real World. And I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Gearhart Law. So I roll all of that into one big thing. And I have a PhD in analytical chemistry. So I learned how to do research. So I've been doing a lot of research on AI in podcasting and marketing all rolled together. And so I'm giving presentations on all of that. They're just coming because people are eager to know.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. And Wendy, why don't you, I'm just going in order of my screen.
Sure, no problem at all. Hi, everybody. My name is Wendy Brant, and I am the director of Podfest Expo, which is the longest running podcasting conference in the world. We are entering our 12th year this year. And so we actually like to say we're the longest running consecutive in person, like how many adjectives can we add in front of that? But that's what our conference is. And I'm really excited to talk to you guys about it today. All these questions that you're asking in the chat, I have answers for all of those, which is come to Podfest. So I'll try not to make that my answer tonight for everything. I also have a podcast that I'm going to tell you guys about, but I started off my podcast not knowing anything, not knowing anybody, and not even wanting to talk to anybody about it out loud because it's kind of dicey and saucy. And so I have a lot of experience about talking about that. So I went from nothing and not knowing anything to now running the largest conference in the country. So I have a little bit of experience in there. So excited to talk to you guys tonight.
Steep learning
So,
curve.
yeah, it's so amazing and inspiring, right? So for any of you out there thinking, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know how to make it there, here you go. And I think each and every one of you have a bit of a story like that, but really, really great. Thank you. And Cait, my friend and president of the New York City chapter of the National Speakers Association. Take us away, Cait.
All right. So I run Fried the Burnout podcast. We just passed 1 million downloads. So yay. That's fun. My fun news of the week. And I started Fried with my foot in a cast and sitting in my mother's living room, not having any idea what the hell I was doing. Like, listen, folks, no one knows how to start a podcast before they start a podcast. That's not how this works. So I made all the mistakes along the way. I'm still making mistakes, and it's still fine. So as we get into the mistakes, I just want everybody to have this mindset that no matter how many things you learn ahead of time, there are going to be things you wish you did differently along the way that you cannot plan for in advance, and they are all just part of the journey.
Excellent. So true. So with that, actually, Cait, why don't I have you keep going? So tell us just a little bit about what did inspire you to get started. How did you start? Like, you didn't know what you were doing. You didn't know how to, like, what got you going? How did it begin? Just give us a little bit of
All right.
your,
So we're going to get full woo right away, folks. We're just going to dive right in.
yeah.
So I was halfway through writing my first book, this one, and I wanted to start gathering stories for the book that were not just me. I didn't want my book to be only my experience. I wanted it to be expansive and meet other people's experiences. I knew that, but that was in the back of my head. In the meantime, I moved from Europe back to the US. I landed in Maplewood, New Jersey. Within 6 weeks, I had ruptured my Achilles and had to be in bed for 16 weeks. No pressure on my foot at all for 16 weeks. Now, at the time, I was a screen freeze. I'm not frozen. No, but nobody
No,
else. Okay.
nobody
At
else.
the time, I was a full-time acupuncturist, but I had not started a practice yet in New York City because I had just moved back to the States. So I had to push back opening my acupuncture office because I couldn't stand, and you can't treat people if you can't get to your office. So I needed a way to fill the time, those 16 weeks. Like, what was I going to do with this time? And I went to bed bawling, crying, like my pillow was soaking wet. I was a disaster. What am I going to do with my time? When I'm in that level of state, I talk to my dead grandmothers. I told you it was going to be woo. So I said, ladies, what am I supposed to do with this time? And I woke up in the morning and I had like a ticker tape going across my forehead that said Fried, the ultimate guide to burnout podcast, over and over and over and over again. And I said, all right, I'm listening. And I started it that day. I sent out a big request for guests. I got 35 responses. I did 35 interviews in 5 weeks and launched season 1.
Wow. That is an amazing story. Okay, well, there you
The
go.
sound was terrible. Right? Like it was terrible. But I did
you
it.
launched. You did it and you got it out there. That's incredible. Such an amazing, great story. So there you go. Anything could happen. Elizabeth, how about you? You and Richard started your Passage to Profit, right? So maybe you
We
can.
did, and we just kind of fell into it. So we had met somebody networking in New York City, and she called me up one day and she said, "Hey, Elizabeth, I just moved to iHeartRadio. I've got an idea for you and Richard. My husband's a patent attorney, and we deal with a lot of entrepreneurs. He owns his own law firm. So she said, how about if you guys do a 1 hour radio show for entrepreneurs on our talk station in Manhattan? And it's paid advertising, so of course we had to pay for it, but and it was expensive at first. Of course, Richard is a lawyer, so he has gotten the price down. But anyway, so
If you need a negotiator, there you go.
but so we walked into the iHeart Studios to do the first one cold, scared half to death, didn't know what the heck we were doing, and they told us, well, you have to come every week. I'm like, well, what if? And they're like, nope, you got to come every week, and you got to get guests, and you got to interview them, and we weren't even thinking about making it a podcast because it was 2018 and podcasts hadn't exploded yet. And so one of our first mistakes was naming it for radio and not for a podcast. And I do have some ways to fix it, but it will cost money. So I don't know what we're going to do. But, and we just did it every week. And if we couldn't find guests, I remember one time we went and grabbed a caterer who had his own catering business who was at iHeart serving lunch. I mean, sometimes we had to scramble, but most of the time the guests would show up. And then during COVID, of course, we got to do it on Zoom. So my husband bought a whole bunch of expensive equipment. If you knew Richard, you would understand. And set up a studio. We set up a studio.
Check out last month's episode and you'll see.
Yeah. And so now I'm renting the studio out to other people because we have all this high-end equipment up there and helping other people start podcasts. So that's me.
Awesome. You see, I hope you guys are starting to see a trend for those of you who have not started, that people didn't know what the heck they were doing. They just sort of went into it. And Wendy, I have a feeling you're going to keep that story going.
I am going to keep that story going just a little bit. So, yes, my podcast is a little bit different, and my story is a little bit different. So, I'll lead up with what my podcast is about. So, my husband and I co-host our podcast together, and we have been together for 36 years, my husband and I, and about 8 years ago, we decided to change our marriage dynamic from our regular monogamous marriage to an open relationship. And so, to put it very easily, we became swingers. And but we did it accidentally. It wasn't planned. And so I tell you all of this because our story, our podcast, is about changing your relationship dynamic. It's called The Accidental Swingers because we weren't planning on this for our lives. I don't know that many people plan on this for their lives. But we listened to a lot of podcasts when we were thinking about this journey for ourselves. And so when we started and we decided to go to open our marriage and become non-monogamous and became swingers, there were a lot of problems. There's a lot of hazards and a lot of dangerous areas and zones and things. And we had listened to a lot of podcasts and we thought we were pretty well prepared, but we weren't. And so we ran into a lot of stumbling blocks, and we felt like we had a story to tell that would be beneficial to other folks that might be like us. So we were in our late 40s at the time, getting ready to be empty nesters, and just our dynamic was changing. And so we felt like we had a lot of information to give and share, and we wanted to do that even if it was just one couple, we felt like if there were other people just like us that just wanted to learn how to talk to this, even to each other about what they wanted. So we decided that that's what we were going to try and do. So we went to this meeting. There was a meeting about podcasting. I looked it up in Tampa, and they were hosting a meeting. So I said, let's go to this meeting about podcasting, and we'll see what it's about. I don't know how to do it. So we went to this meeting, and there we met this man named Chris Kremitzos, who happens to be the owner and the director, Cait knows him, of Podfest Expo. And he was holding a local meetup in Tampa. And so we went to this meetup, and he said, so, oh, you guys are new. We're like, we don't have a podcast. What are you thinking about? We don't know. We don't have a podcast. We don't know what we're going to talk about. We're not going to talk about anything. We don't even know why we're here. Why are we here? What is this place? We were mortified to tell anybody, because how do you talk about that? So right off the bat, we were talking about a subject that not everybody talks about. We were talking about a subject that normally you don't talk to your friends and family about. We were talking about something that we were terrified to share with other people for being judged about. But we were so convinced that our message was so important that we decided to move forward with it and try and help folks. So we decided, we did that. We started with pseudonyms. So if you do listen to our podcast, my name is Marina in the podcast. My husband is Tristan. And we did that. We had our kids were in their teens at the time, and my husband is also an attorney, and he wanted to have whatever he needed to protect himself. So I'm telling you all these things because we really went through this way in a lot of different ways. We started in our closet. We kept going to those little meetup meetings about that podcasting event. And finally, we were able to tell people we're thinking we're doing a marriage podcast. And they were like, "That's great! People love marriage podcasts." And so we realized we better own up pretty soon that we really weren't talking maybe exactly about what they were thinking about. We met the Podfest community. We went to the Podfest event. For the very first time, I went as an attendee, and then we learned how to talk to people. And everybody at that event was so amazing, and they were so supportive of being able to tell people. We were saying, like, we don't know how to do this, and we have this really weird topic, and it's scary, and people will judge us. And everybody at the event was like, "Oh my gosh, that's not me, but that sounds awesome. And how can I help you?" So we were so supported and so encouraged that we decided to move on with our podcast, and we did. And it started during COVID, because when did everybody else's podcast start? But it was ready to go. It just COVID hit at the same time. And we started our podcast, The Accidental Swingers. And I'm happy to report, and I'm going to tell you a lot. I don't do anything by the book. I do everything wrong. I do everything upside down. I do it all backwards. A lot of times it works. A lot of times it doesn't. I'm happy to tell you all of it. I'm also a podcast strategist. So if you want someone that's going to help you push all your envelopes and break the bank, and not break the bank, but break all the rules, I can do that too. But we started it, and we're still here. We don't have a ton of episodes. We very lovely, have over 1 million downloads. People really resonated with the podcast. They really enjoy it, and they love hearing our stories. Thank you. And but I wanted to tell you guys all that because I talk to so many people that say, how do I even talk about this subject? Well, I can teach you how to talk about your subject. There's people out there that need to hear your passion, your mission, your message, and they will find you. So I'm excited to share all of that with you guys today.
That's so incredible. Told you we would not disappoint here today with this crowd. There's a lot of the expertise here is incredible. Um, so we're going to talk a lot about mistakes, but I kind of would love to hear what is one of the first mistakes that you made coming out of the gate. I know, Elizabeth, you mentioned the title, but you may not even have known that even at the time, right? Like, you kind of are
Right.
reflecting on that now. But when you very first started, what was one of the first things that you felt like you did wrong? That, if you were advising your first time self or somebody who's just starting out not to do, what would that be?
So, what people don't realize, and what we didn't realize back then, that I strongly believe, is that having a successful podcast is 70 to 80% marketing. Because as everybody has pointed out, how do you get seen above the noise? Yeah, I see Cait going, yeah, well, you have to have good audio and content, but you really have to be found. So I would have started I would have put all the social media in place, which we did later, but I would have had everything as much set up as I could have from the very beginning. And I would have put, I do marketing for Gearhart Law, so that's kind of my thing. I would have put a lot more marketing into it from day one.
So marketing, and I know we have a lot of questions about marketing. We are going to go deeper into that, but just starting with like the first sort of out of the gate mistake that you might have made. Cait, how about for you?
I bought a very expensive microphone that I didn't really know how to set up, and I didn't understand that the type of microphone you need depends on the kind of room that you're in. Now I'm in a office that is soundproofed, so I have a podcasting room in my house that is also my office. So that's a very different scenario. But my first episodes, I was using this $400 incorrect microphone sitting on my mother's lazy boy with my leg up in a cast, and the sound quality was awful. And after the first few episodes, listening back and realizing I couldn't fix it, like I couldn't, the editing just was not enough. No matter what I did, it just wasn't good enough. And I couldn't afford to pay anybody to edit it for me. So I put those episodes out. They are still out there. And then I started using these, and the sound was 1,000 times better. After
Wow.
some time, I ended up buying another microphone. I had a professional setup for a while, then it broke down, and I went back to these, and nobody seems to notice. So my initial mistake was a $400 expense that didn't need to happen.
Are you willing to share what that $400 microphone
Yeah, it
was?
was a Rode.
A Rode. Oh,
A
wow.
Rode.
Which
Yeah.
is generally a really good
Yep.
microphone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And did
But
you not realize that the sound was bad like after a couple episodes?
I did. That's so after 3 or 4 episodes, I was like, I cannot seem to fix this sound to make it sound
Mhm.
correct. So I put these in and recorded the next one, and I was like,
It's
these came
just.
with my phone.
Mhm. Interesting. So, I mean, we have a lot of questions a lot of times. I would say every month. A big question is around equipment. We did something last month around equipment. So based on that sort of experience, even your current experience, would you say, because most people would say, get a good microphone, sound matters. And you're like, hey, these are, wire. Um,
These work because I'm in a soundproofed room,
okay.
Mhm.
right? So
Got it.
that is, they are still decent enough to start with for
Mhm.
most people in most scenarios,
If it's not soundproof,
even if it's not.
okay.
Even if
Awesome.
it's not. I know that people get really stuck on this, and people will not listen to you if you don't have good sound quality. The sound quality is not bad enough when you use these. I have 1 million downloads, folks. My microphone was broken for 2 months. I didn't even know. I was talking straight out loud to my microphone in my computer, which is not even directly in front of me.
Wow.
Nothing happened.
Nice.
So
Um,
I just everybody calm down a little.
Love it.
The other thing too, and if I can just chime in really, really
I
quickly,
was
like
just gonna pass it to you too,
that
so go for
that's
it.
okay. I mean, just even on tapping in on that. So we all have then the technology has come so far
Yeah,
that
Mhm.
where Cait and I started when we started
exactly.
a few years ago, you guys don't have the issues that we had. You can go and record your podcast in Adobe Podcast, click a button, and it's magically done for you now. So find the platform, the tool that you like. Adobe Podcast has automatic enhance. Nemono SoundCloud Sound Capsule. If you like Nemono, I love my Nemono. I literally record, I hand it to them to enhance it, and I only have to tweak little things if I need to. I was like Cait, I learned how to edit audio so that I could do that because our audio is a little bit different. We actually have audio from our car when we were driving. We recorded ourselves way before we started our podcast. So I have raw audio from a car that I have to fix. And sometimes it's terrible, but that's just part of it. But you guys don't have to worry about as much of that now. I also want to show you this mic was my original mic that I bought, $99. It's the Audio Technica whatever. I think they're on sale now for like $69. And it's the mic I recommend to anybody, or get the upgraded one for a whole $99 just because it's USB-C in the back. And it's an amazing mic. If you want the expensive stuff, by all means, it will make you sound better if you know how to use it. Like Cait said, if you don't know how to use it, the good mics don't sound good on me because my voice doesn't sound great with it. My voice sounds good with this one. So, but anyways, on that one.
Wendy, actually, could you repeat the names of the programs that you threw out there? Somebody's asking, did you record or edit on Adobe? And you also mentioned Pneumono, just so we capture it, because a couple of
Sure,
people are asking.
sure. So Adobe Podcast, which is like the Adobe suite of tools, the Adobe Firefly, all their studio podcasting stuff is really amazing. They've just really all their AI stuff. They've really ramped everything up. And I love Adobe because it's kind of like Apple. All their systems talk to each other. So if you're comfortable with Adobe, it all is like plug and play. But their podcasting software is great. And the Nomono, Nomono, sound capsule. They actually have a new system out now, which I think is for cell phones and maybe has two mics. The sound capsule that I have uses four mics, but it is such an amazing system. And they have a great, thank you, Cait, for putting that in the chat. They have a really great program Nemono does now that you can, basically you're using their audio software for, I think it's like $100 a month. They will send you the sound cloud with the four lavalier mics, and then and you pay as you go, and at the end of the 3 years you own the sound capsule. But if you cancel your contract before the end of the 3 years, you can choose to either buy the capsule for what you've already paid for it or not. It's really, and it's a great product. I love it. But anyways, yeah, and I'm happy to, I can talk this stuff all day long, so I don't want to get off on that, but I'm happy to,
Yeah,
and I'm gonna
no,
have
thanks
my
for
email
sharing
and
that.
you guys are going to get my contact information before the end. The thing I wanted to say about
Yeah,
the
mistake.
the mistakes to make, or that I made, my mistake was not getting off my butt and starting sooner.
Mhm.
I probably was a little bit like Elizabeth. I wanted, thinking I should have a lot more stuff that I should have had done. So I held myself back a little bit. I never did that. And I still don't do great at social media. So I can tell you how I managed that problem. I was like Cait, I didn't know what I was going to do, how I was going to start this podcast. How do I do it? What equipment do I buy? And so we just started. We just, by the time I finally just decided, I bought the $99 mic and just do it. Just do it. Just do it. And I think my mistake was waiting too long. I would have loved to have started. We had talked about it for almost a year before we decided to do it. We were terrified because we didn't know how to tell anybody. How do you tell somebody you want to start a podcast that talks about swinging? Except for the other swinger podcasts, and they weren't very nice. They're not a collaborative group. I'm a collaborative lady. They were not a collaborative group. So,
But do you think
but
it's a little easier now that Sister Wives has been on TV? I mean,
no.
no, really? Okay.
No, I think what's actually gotten easier for me is learning how to talk about it in a way that is very comfortable so that people can have their normal reaction to it. And if that's not their style or they don't want to hear about it, it's totally fine. It has nothing I don't take it personally. It's more about me learning how to be okay with saying what I need to say. And if people are like, I'm totally fine with that. It's totally fine. It has nothing. It's not personal. It's just that's not what they want to hear about, and it is no problem. And I will change the subject and move on. And then some people go, oh, "Tell me more." So,
That's
but
great.
that's for me because I was terrified to even tell anybody about it. We didn't know what to do. We just didn't know how to do it, and so waiting was a mistake for us.
So I love that. So that's really across the board, right? On one hand, it's like, oh, I wish I had more together in the beginning. On another hand, it's like, I wish I just started earlier. On another hand, it's like, oh, forget the expensive equipment, just go with the cheaper equipment. So there's really anything goes, I think, is going to be a little bit of the theme here. But do what's right for you, probably, and just go for it is going to be a key. You all have guests on your shows, and I'm really curious, like, how did that go down? I know, you were pulling caterers out of iHeart.
Yeah,
Um,
podcast when we started.
guests, getting guests, having guests show up. What was like well, how did that work for you? What did you do? What do you wish you did better? What would you advise to somebody starting out with guests? And maybe even the question of, would you advise somebody starting out with guests? More and more podcasts are just solo speakers. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Wendy, I know we were just there, but let's go back to you and then we'll go to Elizabeth.
All right, and I was actually getting ready to type in the chat. So we actually don't have a lot of guests.
Oh,
We didn't start with guests because I was nervous enough to talk my own self, and having to worry about now I have to learn how to interview people. So our very first guest, we weren't going to do any at all. We've had a few now. And so our first guest, I was so mortified. I talked probably at 800 miles an hour. He maybe said 3 words, and it was not pretty. It's still out there, episode 12, I think it is. But Justin Lehmiller, Sex and Psychology, was our guest. And I was so excited that he was there. And I was just, like I said, mortified. So I don't think you have to start with guests. We rarely have guests, but we are a co-hosted, a tag team. There's the two of us. Sometimes there's 4 of us, but you definitely do not have to have them. And there's a format and a way to do a podcast for any way imaginable that you can think of it. And if you think that you want to try your podcast in XYZ way, go for it.
Okay, excellent. Elizabeth, go for it. Guests.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about guests, what sort of your experience was, what were there any mistakes around that? How did you handle less stellar guests or
Yeah. So we've had guests the entire time. So the account rep at iHeart radio media came to us with a set format. So we would interview 3 people. And well, at first it was 4. And we had extra people in case someone didn't show up. And we do have a list now of people we can call like last minute. And you can also use like Perplexity to go through LinkedIn and find you somebody you can beg to come if you need them to. But it's a double-edged sword. I personally love interviewing guests because we have a business podcast. And so I feel like I'm getting an MBA, from talking to all these really
yeah.
smart people every week with these new cutting edge companies that are out there doing brand new things. So that's the favorite part for me, is to interview somebody that I don't know and learn what they're doing. I did have another podcast, and sometimes we had guests. I had a co-host, and sometimes it was just the 2 of us. And I've heard many times that people come for the content, but they stay for the hosts. So people kind of view you like their friend. So I think Richard, my husband, will not deviate at all from our format. I would, but he says, no, this is what people expect, so this is what we have to give them. If it were up to me, I would maybe do some without guests in top, or branch out a little bit. We do have a backup in case a guest doesn't show up. We have a backup with just,
Has that happened a lot? Like where you're, especially at iHeart, where you're paying for the space, you're there, you're in it, you're expected to have a radio show, and is that a frequent occurrence where guests don't show
it's
or
it's more than we would like. Now we have, like I said, we know a lot of people, and Podmatch helps a lot. We also use Quora to get guests, and that helps a lot. But we also, and this is something not everybody can afford, I understand, but we have an assistant. So she'll find out a day before, and she'll go and she'll email everybody. And so if you're going to have an interview podcast, it is going to take more time, I think, because the other thing is you have to research the people that are coming on. You have to schedule them. We have pre-calls with them. So there is a whole process that we've developed with them, that if it was just Richard and me, we would probably do some work, some research, and put together something. But this is a lot more involved because we have to get to know. But we also have 3 people.
I was going to say you have multiple guests on yours. Have there been any mistakes around guests that you would say that you experienced, or that if you were giving somebody advice on guests, what to do or not to do?
I would say have a pre-call with them and screen them. And then also be prepared to be mean. Like, Richard is really good at that. We've had people, they come on and they will not stop talking. It's like, wait a minute. This is not your story hour. And so we actually have to butt in and cut them off and edit it and everything. And then we had one guest that just really didn't have much. Somebody else got him for us, and our producer was able, and the guy that was the main guest that was talking to him just like ripped him to pieces. We're like, oh my gosh. But our editor was able to edit it so that didn't really show up in the podcast and the radio show when it came out. That was when we were just on the radio, so it didn't really show up.
So
So
being prepared for a little bit of everything. Cait, how about for you? Any you have guests
Yeah,
regularly.
regularly.
Any stories
I think
or
the
advice on that?
Yeah, the beginning was I was so afraid to not be able to get guests that I put out a call and I took anybody that would say yes. Like I was just like, yes, okay, I will do a podcast. Like I said yes to everyone. And I refused to do a pre-call. I am not spending my time like that. I do not have the time for that. It's not going to happen. So I would rather get on and record a podcast and then say, oh, we couldn't air it, than do a pre-call like with every single person that I'm going to talk to. The other thing that was really hard in the beginning was keeping everything organized. Now, I am incredibly organized with my podcast now. I have a lot of systems in place. They're all very structured. But in the beginning, I did not have that set up. So when it was time to put an episode out, I was scrolling through emails and trying to find a bio and trying to find the links that they wanted. I hadn't asked them for a headshot. Everything, everything was all over the place. I then created a Google form, which I have used ever since. I create a fresh one for every new season so that I'm not scrolling through, 300 past episodes of guests. But I ask people for everything ahead of time. If they do not fill it out before the start of our show, I will not record. If I
Okay.
can't prep for you because you have not given me the information, like we are not doing this. So I have all of that set up now. And I send all of that to a post-production team. I did my own post-production for 2.5 years. Then I did another degree and I couldn't do full-time school and run a business and run the podcast. It was too much. So I started paying a hosting company, a post-production company at that point. They have access to the Google Sheet where all of the guest information is. So all I have to do is send them the file and then they have all the information in one place and it is so easy. So the beginning, I think my biggest mistake was just not organizing it in a way that made it easy for me. And I think the next mistake would have been that, and this wasn't really a mistake. I didn't have the clout to be getting good guests. So I was taking who I could get. And I did a lot of episodes with people who are no longer doing their businesses, people that were very interested in promoting themselves and getting on a podcast, but then shut their businesses down within 6 months to a year. So now I have the ability to invite people in that are, the head researcher from Whoop and the first chief wellness officer in the world from Deloitte. And like now I have this capacity to get people in that have solid like backgrounds and I know that in the future they're going to be doing interesting things, but that took a long time to build. And I think now the biggest problem that I have is too many guests. I have a 200-person wait list. I get pitched 5 to 15 times a day. And I just only do 2 guest episodes a month. So I don't have time for you people.
That's great. Just because you mentioned it, there's a question in here about who do you use now currently as a third party, and if you're willing to share approximate cost, doesn't have to be
Yeah, so
exact.
I use Hivecast, and for 4 episodes a month, it's $8.75. And that does it's 4 1-hour episodes plus show notes plus posted to the host plus they create 3 social media graphics. 2 are one's a quote, one is an episode announcement, and then there's a third which is an audiogram. They don't post those, they don't schedule them, but they send them to me. So it's a pretty good package for all the things at once.
Perfect. Awesome. That's really great.
Sonia,
Um,
I
yeah,
just wanted to point out one quick thing. I
please.
mean, there's so many amazing people on this phone call and so many great ideas and thoughts and I'm listening to everything. And one thing I also wanted to say was that can be a mistake for some folks, and I'm sorry if my camera just froze up, but is to not if you listen to Cait and me and Elizabeth, we are, and Sonia are probably 2, 3, 4 very different people with 4 very different stories, with 4 very different ways that we went about doing the exact same thing. We all have a podcast. Our podcasts are all different. So I don't want anybody to on this call thinking, but if I don't do it that way, it's not going to be okay. But I'm not as organized as Cait. It's not okay. And somebody put in the chat that they first started off with only interviews, and now they do only 1 interview and 3 solos. One thing I was going to tell tell you, I always would tell people, let your podcast tell you where it wants to go. And that sometimes can be really hard. Thanks. Yeah, Cait. It can be really hard because you have this vision and you're like, no, it's going to be this and it's going to be awesome. And we're going to do it this way. And yet your community is saying, but we want the guest or we want to learn about this. And but you're like, no, we're going to do it this way. You have to let all that stuff go. And we thought we were going to be doing guests all the time. And people really wanted to listen to us talk. They didn't really want the guests. Now they want guests a little bit more. And so don't be afraid and don't feel like you have to. That is, if there's one thing from anything in any conference, any class, anything you talk about podcasting, is that truly at the end of the day, it is you, it is your message and your heart. And it has to be from you in your style or it won't last. It's got to be at the end of the day, like I can't keep up with the way that Elizabeth does it. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have the staff. I don't have the people. I don't have the energy. I have other jobs. So I get an episode out when I can. Guess what? Sometimes it's every other month. We're in a place where we can do that now, but so just be aware of that. I just want to let people know it doesn't have to be perfect. Please don't make it perfect. You're more
I
human when you're not.
But don't make it perfect. Yeah, don't make it perfect because then everybody will think it's AI.
Right.
And I love that you really brought that too, because I think it's so interesting that you all three are so different and you're all giving very different answers, which is really amazing because here we go. All three are very successful. And I think it does really show that anything is possible. So it's just food for thought and things to know, and know that these are some certain ways to navigate what they have experienced. And you can do it your way. You should do it your way. So love that. Thanks for adding that. So there's been a number of questions here too about I guess it's both audience growth, marketing. So let's talk just a little bit about that. How did you how did you Well, let's start with marketing. How did you get the word out? Because there's a lot of podcasts, as we know. We know that there are a lot of them that aren't active, but there are also some that are active, but maybe not getting the numbers that you all have gotten. And so what have you done? What did you do that worked? What did you do that didn't work? What was perhaps a mistake in that area or something that you would advise to somebody moving forward? Cait, I'm going to I'm going to start with you this time.
Okay. So Wendy is a marketer. I mean, Elizabeth is a marketer. I am not a marketer. Nope. Don't know the rules. Nope. So when I started, one of the things that you said, Elizabeth, earlier was you wish you had all this marketing like ready ahead of time so that you could really like promote it and launch it. I absolutely agree with that because that's what I would do now if I started again. But people often ask me like, how was your podcast so successful? And I say to people, timing. Like I had nothing at the beginning. Of course, I produced a fairly good podcast that people enjoyed coming back to. However, I started a podcast about burnout 9 months before a global pandemic. I didn't do anything to make it grow. I just produced it and it was one of the only ones. So it grew. It was one of the only ones and it wasn't total garbage. Right? Like it could have been just mediocre and it still would have done pretty well. So I think that like I have to acknowledge that luck and timing was part of my story because now I have to think about how I'm pushing it forward, but I didn't have to think about it for years. I didn't even have to consider it. It just happened. So I was really lucky that way. And then one of the things that I did really well that I didn't know that I did well was I used the word burnout in almost every single episode title. So every time somebody was searching for a podcast on burnout, not only would my podcast show up, but my episodes would show up. So I think one of the things that you have to really be careful with, and one of the biggest mistakes I see newer podcasters making, is trying to be really creative with their titles, trying to be really clever with their titles, when if you want to be found through SEO, you have to answer the questions that people are asking in search engines. You have to answer the questions that people are asking in ChatGPT. So I have episodes that say, what are the signs and symptoms of burnout? Because that's what people ask. How do I
Right.
tell my boss I'm burnt out? Have an episode that's titled exactly that. And this sounds really simple, but some podcasts, when you look through them, there was a podcast that I was looking through recently. It was about marketing actually, and I was like, oh, I need to learn. I need to dig into this, and I opened it, and I didn't know what the episodes were about
Yeah.
because the episodes were so cleverly titled, but they're cleverly titled in language and jargon that's not familiar to me. So I didn't know what I was getting, and I left the podcast. I didn't listen to it because the titles were not clear enough. So if you want to reach people, you have to give people what they are looking for. So you need to know your topic well enough to be an expert, but also not so well that you're so far beyond what the beginners know that you go past them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really very great advice. And Elizabeth, I know you talk about words, repeating words and that showing up in AI and all of that a lot. So, how about for you though? What would you say in regards to marketing? And audience growth what were some mistakes that you made, maybe some things you tried that didn't work out so well, and what do you think you did do well that is working great?
Right. So we tried a lot of things. So
Yeah.
we had an assistant and we had the law firm sponsoring it. So we had money to try a lot of things. And everybody's not going to have that opportunity. So we bought social media followers from India. We had a contest, all this other stuff. Didn't really help us a lot. I've done some research recently because these things change all the time. But what I have heard from years that I think is still true is if you have a little bit of money to spend on advertising, advertise on other podcasts.
Mhm.
And um, in fact, I'm launching this new podcast in January, AI in business. And there are a couple other podcasts in that niche. So I'm going to really try to get my marketing in a row so I can really take off with it. But I asked Perplexity, how do I make this go crazy? And I'm doing it on YouTube. I saw there was a question about YouTube. We're doing it on
Yeah.
YouTube, and Spotify has a free creators, and it's the best one for free. So I might release it through Spotify. Although we saw Odyssey, Wendy, you had Odyssey at your event. Um, they're kind of cool because the monetization for them is really cool. So I'm going to check them out too. Um, but what this said was you need to spend money advertising like the second or third week of your podcast because all these systems look at, oh, here's a new podcast. Is anybody listening to it? And if it sees that it's getting listened to, then it promotes it even more and more and more. But if it sits in the dustbin then and nobody's listening to it, then it'll never make it. It's going to be really hard. Um, and so the ones that really get big quickly, that's because they dump a bunch of money into advertising. And there's one other tip I want to share that we just found out kind of accidentally that if for people that are putting stuff on YouTube, and this is really in the weeds, guys, but if you put a video on YouTube, it looks at how many people look at your video on YouTube, how many subscribe, and then it offers it up to the second one it offers to your subscribers and sees how many of those watch it. And it wants everything to happen right away. It doesn't want it to take months, right? Um, if you put it on YouTube as private, then it counts. The clock starts ticking the minute you put it on there, even though it's private, and you have just pretty much screwed up your chances for ever having it go anywhere. If you want to put it on YouTube and do more work on it, you need to schedule it. And I know that's a real technical thing and a minor thing, but we had to find out the hard way. So that's a mistake I would not make again, Sonia. But we put on YouTube separately, and then we put on the other ones. On like we use right now. I've used a few. I've used Castos. I've used Buzzsprout. I've used Spotify. I love Buzzsprout, but any of them, one that you feel comfortable with. I like the user interface for Buzzsprout where you pick all the places you want it to go to. So if nobody's ever done one before, like if you stick it on Buzzsprout, all these other sites come up, and some you have to make an account on, some you don't. Apple is always difficult. You have to have an Apple account. And some it'll just put it on there. But I found it was easiest to do with Buzzsprout. But Spotify is a big one. So, And Spotify's not going anywhere. Like some of these podcast platforms come and go too.
Cool. Okay. And Wendy, how about for you when it comes to marketing, audience building? I know you probably weren't super intentional with the whole marketing plan when you started, but you
Well,
still have
I
a lot of views.
yeah, well, we do, yes. I think part of it too, and as I'm listening to again everybody here and we're all chatting, I think the first thing I would want to say to folks is, it really depends on why you're starting your podcast. What is it for? Is it for us, it was really kind of for fun, and it was to share, um, to help people. It was our goal was to serve people in a really kind of weird way, but that was our goal. We just wanted to be able to let people know that there was other information out there and that you could navigate this minefield if you wanted to. So it wasn't necessarily a business thing. So I think there's a lot of depending on what you're wanting to do, but we still wanted to be successful. We still had goals. We still wanted to be leaders in our community. We still wanted to be, and quite honestly, being 100% transparent. If you get big enough in our genre, a lot of times you get free trips and you can go to free events. And I was like, I'll go to a free trip and a free event. So that's totally fine. And that was part of, and being invited to go as a podcaster. So I was really looking to it to help me in some other areas. So I think when you're thinking about marketing, what is your podcast for? What are you doing it for? Is it to support something that you're already doing? Are you starting something new? So I think that there's a lot that goes into that piece of it before you decide your route. So for us, because it wasn't necessarily a marketing platform, I spent the time that we were building up. I spent the time going into other communities and building community by like I went into Reddit and did a lot of Reddit reading and just and would and engage with people in Reddit and in Facebook, in these communities, in the swinger communities, talking about what are the problems, what issues are you having. People wanted to talk to their partners about it, but they didn't know, how do I bring this up? I don't want someone to feel like I don't love them just because I want something different. Like all of these things, and it's all emotions and jealousies and all this stuff. There's a lot to it. And so I went in and just started getting comfortable in the communities. And then guess what? 9, 10 months later, Marina had been in the community for a while, and I say, well, I'm going to do a podcast about that. Or we started a podcast. We're going to do an episode on that. So it wasn't like, hey, come listen to our podcast. I'd already been in the community for a long time, and I was just quietly there, and I would answer questions and do whatever. And then all of a sudden it was like, so we could kind of introduce ourselves. It worked out really well because I got so much information about what people were wanting, what they were needing, the information that they were desperate for. And then we were kind of right there when we first started. So that was kind of our very backdoor guerrilla marketing, so to speak. Um, because we didn't have to do it the other way. I think what I would do now, if I'm starting up and we're starting some other side projects, I will follow a similar path, like starting to get more active in whatever community is that I'm going for. But with what Elizabeth is talking about and finding yourself much more searchable, I would put my dollars right now for me into having somebody help me with that because I'm not good at that. Like we really lucked out. Cait's the same way. Like she lucked out. She put burnout in all of her stuff. Tell you what, the one mistake people told us don't do it. Don't put the word swinger in your title. And we did it because we were committed because it was an accident. It paid off. That is, you talk about luck. Anytime anybody looks up swingers, guess who comes up? Guess whose podcast? People warned us, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. We didn't even think about the benefit of it. So that's another one of those things. Break the rule. It was important to us because it was our identity. People needed to understand we didn't plan this. It just happened this way. And so it kind of leads to our story. And so I think that's part of the marketing piece too. So figure out where you are, what you're going, what's the goal, and then find someone that can help you kind of chart out a path for you to help you with that. Starting a year in advance is not too far, but you don't have to spend money to do it. It's just spending time doing Facebook or whatever it is. So you can start those pieces parts now.
Nice. That's great. If you, I think this goes in line with sort of that audience thing and the marketing thing and the branding, right? Like you didn't come out of the gate intentionally branding, but you essentially did in the end brand yourself as like the swingers, right? And that really worked out for you. Um, do you feel like coming into something that would be important to try to establish your brand right out? Are there mistakes that you've seen or you have made along the branding route?
I think for us, we were happy with it, and we're happy with it, and we're okay. I think that I have uh, the amazing pleasure and privilege to work with top podcasters from all over the world. I think the majority of folks would tell you if it's not working, it's okay to change it. If it's not working, it may set you back, but don't. If it doesn't speak to your soul and it doesn't speak to your audience and it doesn't speak to you, it's not speaking to anybody. And so don't be afraid to pivot. Just it's okay. It's okay to pivot and nothing it and if that doesn't work, change the direction again. Like I say, let it kind of tell you, but I think I don't again, it's that piece of it doesn't have to be perfect. Don't be afraid. And yeah, it may cost you some money. You want to be as close as you can, but like I think Elizabeth, you said you guys were changing your passion to profit because it didn't quite work for you now, but it still says a lot what that is. Passion to profit tells me a lot. I know what that is. She's passionate about making money. She wants to make a profit on something. I don't know what that is. I want to make a profit. I would listen. So there's maybe she wants to maybe change it to passion and profit, in an AI world or something like that. That can we make it more timely? But so I think there's ways to go about it, but I don't think you should ever be afraid to change it if it's not working, because you're just putting energy into something that doesn't fuel you, and if it doesn't fuel you, then it's not going to
Well,
continue to grow.
in that vein, Wendy, so we added Road to Entrepreneurship as a tagline.
Oh, there you go.
So the listener isn't necessarily going to see that because it gets cut off, right? When you're looking at podcasts to watch or to listen to, but the search engines will. So that helps us
Mhm.
with the search engines. But really what I'm trying to do, but it would take time and money, so we're trying to figure out if it's worth it, is to have the radio show be Passage to Profit and have the podcast be Road to Entrepreneurship and actually use the same content but treat the podcast differently. So I think a big mistake we made was thinking you can take a radio show and dump it into a podcast. You really can't. You were
Except that you have. So I wouldn't say you can't. You have. So I definitely think that that's worth looking at. But you have rebranded a little. I know you've rebranded the look of it. You've rebranded the title. Are there other rebranding things that you did?
Well, we had another host who was at iHeart and then she
Mm.
left. And so we had to rebrand again to just Richard and me as the hosts. And we've changed segments. So we put a bunch of different segments in there. So we'd have little pieces we could pull out for YouTube as standalones. And we've changed those many times. So the AI in business started out as a segment in Passage to Profit, and we decided to make it its own podcast separately too. So we'll edit it so it's not the exact same content. But yeah, we went and looked at what people are searching for, and we have your new business journey that we ask people. And we have secrets of the entrepreneurial mind. So yeah, we've changed a lot of stuff over the 7.5 years,
So
definitely.
again, lots of pivots, so don't be afraid to brand, don't be afraid to change. Cait, is there anything that you came out of the gate with in terms of brand? Did you brand it? Like, did you have the colors, the fonts, all of the things that typically go with branding? Did you decide that a lot ahead of time? Did you change it a lot? Were there any mistakes you made around it? What would you
Listen,
do
my
differently?
dead grandmothers told me to build a podcast and I did it the next day. I didn't have a brand.
Right.
So in the beginning, and I mean, the lucky thing is fried is an easy word to brand. I put it on a cast iron pan and it was easy. So, and
Mhm.
everybody loves it. But to be honest, in the beginning, I did have a Facebook page that was related to my acupuncture practice.
Mm.
And there was a few hundred people on there, maybe nothing major, but a few hundred people. And a lot of them were like my cousins and friends and things. It wasn't like I didn't have this crazy global audience or anything, but I started to ask them, well, what do you think of this logo for the podcast? I'm already recording. And so I iterated my logo through Canva and a Facebook page over the course of 24 hours. And then we came to a consensus of what the best one was at the time. And I went with it and it worked. And then, so that worked so well that by the time when it was time for us to rebrand, we just sort of updated the colors and did some fresh things after a few years, because it's always good to freshen up. I did the same thing. I then had a Facebook group that now has, 3,400 people in it. And I said, hey, everybody, it's time for your feedback, creating my logo. And it gives people a little bit of ownership of it. It gives people, like, they're putting in, they're getting their input, they're making suggestions, they're seeing things that I wouldn't, and like, I'm not a marketer or design person. I still do everything myself on Canva, and I just go with it. Done is better than perfect. Life is short. Get over it. I don't know. And so I did that again, and that was something that worked really, really well for me. But Fried the Burnout podcast is luckily a very good name. It does what it says on the box. It's very easy to brand because of the words. So I was really lucky in that regard.
Awesome. There have been a few questions, so I do kind of want to address it in terms of video, YouTube. So I don't know whether that falls in the category of mistakes, but maybe you guys could speak to it. You all started on video, right? No, Cait, you're on audio?
I
Are you still?
started audio only.
Uh,
I now record video. Most of the time I don't use it. I tried to go on YouTube for a while, and I did not take the time to do it well. So it didn't, nothing, like literally nothing happened for me on YouTube. Nothing. And I have not
would you
still,
say that there were some mistakes there that maybe
yeah,
made that maybe you would address?
yeah, so I think that for me was that I was just taking the podcasts and putting them up there. I made some thumbnails. I don't know how to make thumbnails. I didn't hire anybody to do it. I was not looking at SEO. I was just I didn't have the time to really, I still don't have the time to do it, which is why Fried is not consistently on YouTube. Every once in a while there's a random short that pops up. It's very awkward. So there's like, the consistency matters, knowing the platform matters. Like, I know how to work Instagram, I know how to work LinkedIn. I don't know how to do YouTube well, and I don't have the money to pay someone to do it. So that was a failed experiment for me so
Cool.
far.
Okay, but not obviously still not impacting the success of your podcast. So,
I mean,
right?
maybe I could
Which,
be at 3 million downloads. Who knows?
you know, and maybe it's still in your future.
They're very they're very different though. The video numbers will not translate into your audio numbers, by the way. So don't get wrapped around the axle about, your downloads versus your YouTube channel subscribers, but because they don't necessarily correlate. YouTubers are YouTubers, podcast listeners are podcast listeners,
Yeah.
and they actually don't they don't
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I found
they
for
don't yeah
me.
yeah
Yeah, that's
yeah
what,
yeah.
that was the thing.
So if I can take a stab at that. So I
Please
started
do.
audio only also. We started audio only because obviously we were going to be anonymous. That's going so well. Here I am. Um, but yeah, it's kind of hard when you run the largest podcasting conference to keep your podcast a secret. But we did audio only, and then we decided to do video. And with the video, I did not know the thing about the private video thing, Elizabeth. That's interesting, but ours is a little bit different, obviously. Also, again, kind of the way we did everything. We just kind of stumbled into it, and I thought, you know what, I better get a YouTube channel because everybody says I should have a YouTube channel, so I got a YouTube channel. And then in the old days, you had to have 100 likes or something before you could claim the name. And I'm like, oh, look, we have 100 likes. I'll go ahead and claim the name. So I claimed the name, The Accidental Swingers. And we would put a couple things on there, and we did a couple that were video forward, and then we took the audio and put it on the podcast. So we've done that before also. And so now we do it both. We will record the podcast with video. And honestly, because I have a person, I pay my YouTube person, because I'm like, Cait, I didn't have the time, the money, or I didn't have the time or the brain power to want to learn a new platform. This is another piece of advice I'm going to give everybody. Pick the things that you know. So I do Instagram because that's what I know. I don't do TikTok. I have a channel. There's probably 4 things on it. I don't have time. So I pick the things that I know and that I can do. So I couldn't do that, but I felt like we needed to be on YouTube. So that's where I chose to spend money. And I spend about what Cait spends on her podcasting piece on my YouTube management, a little bit less. I have a great YouTube manager, and he does all of it for us. So that was huge. and I just hand it to him, and he has been fabulous to test all that thumbnail stuff. He's been great. He names the things horrible names that I would be mortified, like Marina sleeping with 5 men or something. I don't know, 5 men, what I don't, just horrible, horrible, salacious, titles, because guess what?
They
He
get
gets people to
clicks.
stop. Yep. And then he'll even put in there audio only, in case anybody thinks it's video or anything like that, even if it's on YouTube. But you can do both. Is kind of the point of the story is you can do both. They are different platforms, and so if you're more comfortable with one, stick with the one that you're very comfortable with. That until you want to do another one. If you feel like it's important as you're starting out to be forward on both, kind of you got to figure out which one you want to be more towards. What does your stuff lean more towards? Ask other people, ask other podcasters, ask other creators, other YouTubers, video or audio, things like that, because you can do both, and but they're just different.
Great. And Elizabeth, how about you? I know you're quite active on YouTube.
Right. So we started out audio only because we were at iHeart Radio, right? But it was actually our iHeart account manager who told us to start doing video. So we started doing video clips of people for social media. And then the iHeart studios are not set up for video, but Richard, my husband, is very, very into this tech stuff. He loves it. And so he figured out how to record video of everybody. And we're actually going to use that same setup when we go down to Podfest to record videos, a video podcast of people down at Podfest, the AI and business one. So now everything we do is video, but we do YouTube very separately from the audio. So our iHeart guy gives us the audio podcast, and it's not even what he puts on the radio. He does a second thing for us because the radio is different from the audio. And then YouTube, there's a tool called vidIQ, which gives you feedback and all this other stuff, right? So some of you know that. So we have a marketing assistant now, which has helped a lot. And she just does a deep dive digging into these things. And we ask ChatGPT and Perplexity and Google Gemini, all of them, all these LLMs, like, how can we optimize this video for YouTube so people will keep watching? And that's what I've done with the content for the AI in business. We have the content already, but we've been putting it through ChatGPT and saying, okay, what's going to make people watch this longer on YouTube? And it's suggested edits and a whole bunch of different things. But all of that takes time. You know what? What I actually did with AI in business and what I do for people that come to me for coaching is I asked ChatGPT for a business plan. And it gave me a business plan. Now you can't do everything in the business plan it gives you because you never sleep. But you can do some of it, right? But it kind of gives you an idea of what you need to do, to at least a few things you need to have in place to get started. And it'll give it to you like day by day or week by week what you need to do. And the other thing, to Wendy's point and to Cait's point, you don't have to do it every week. We have to do it every week because we have a radio spot. But we went to every other week for a while. It didn't hurt anything we were doing. So just do it when you can, but try to be consistent. If you can do it once a month. We have another one that the law firm does that's once a month. And the other thing I want to say quickly so people understand how this is different, part of the reason that we did this radio show and podcast was to drive business to Gearhart Law. So we felt like we could fund it from Gearhart Law. So if you're not going to make money from it some way, you want to really think about how much money you can actually put into it.
I think that's really great. And are you monetizing it? And if so, are there any whether it be, okay, the law firm is funding it, but we're getting clients out of it. That's a way of monetization. Or are there other ways? Are there mistakes that you feel like you made in that, or things that you've done really well?
Well, we are monetizing it. We are getting clients from it.
Yeah.
And we're getting high-level networking relationships from it. So we went to this thing at Rutgers with these like researchers and stuff, and we want to do life sciences patents and stuff. And so we're like, well, you should come on our radio show, podcast. And they're like, oh, I would love to, because nobody ever invites scientists to come on, but they want to. So that's one way. But another way, and Cait, I don't know, maybe you should consider this. We charge people to be on the show because we have to pay iHeart. And I just tell them, I'm like, we have to charge you to come on Passage to Profit because we have to pay iHeart and we have to recoup some of our costs. And so we are monetizing it, but we're not in the black on it by any means. And we could maybe charge more and be more selective, but we give it for free to our clients. So like, but then that's how we get clients in too. So yeah.
Great. Cait, you want to tag off of that? How would you say you monetize it? Are the things that you've done particularly well with that or that have worked, or mistakes perhaps in that arena?
I think the thing that's working now is dynamic advertising, which I can pull in and like I can take things out and put them in where I want when I want, which is really useful. In the beginning, I did do a couple of ad spots throughout the years. I did them very infrequently. I did not get my people used to them at all. And then I was baking them into the episode, so now they still exist all these years later. And that was not a great move for me. So I think I was so nervous about not about bothering people with advertising that I didn't create space for it. I would do that differently now, most likely if I was building something. But the dynamic advertising that we use now, we use only for our own programs. So we use it to sell group coaching. We use it to sell one-on-one coaching. I don't do any of the coaching myself. That's all run by my director of coaching. I don't have time for that. And the podcast is also something that is a clout adder when it comes to my speaking business. So I can charge more because I have a large podcast. I have a book, I have a large podcast. It helps me gain bigger fees, which is helpful. So I'm making money because the podcast exists, but I'm not getting paid. It's all indirect.
Perfect. Great. Wendy, how about for you? And any thoughts or any other mistakes that
Yeah.
you see coming out of the gate on the whole monetization aspect?
So it's really interesting because we came out of our for our podcast thinking there's a lot of people that would sponsor us. We do. I mean, there's a lot of people that I would think would want to get in front of people that are in our demographic. So, however, I am not a salesperson, and I get very uncomfortable asking and looking for sponsors and things like that. So. And that really wasn't our goal. Remember, at the beginning, the goal was really not only to share the message, which was really the main goal, and then, gee whiz, if we get invited to come to a couple events because we can say we're podcasters and we want to interview people, and then we get in for free. So that was kind of the original piece of it. When we realized a couple years into the process that we had stumbled upon some gold and we had the podcast was doing very, very well. I had a other job. I was now running Podfest and I have other clients. And so it just never took a front seat. Then when we were like, you know what, this is stupid. People should be handing us money. We're so fabulous. They should be handing us money. Well, that's when kind of saying screw you to the system and I'm going to do this my own way kind of bit us in the butt. So here's where it bites you in the butt, people. When you break the rules, you got to pay. So we aren't consistent. We put out a podcast when I could put out a podcast. Sometimes they were 12 days apart. Sometimes they're 8 months apart. You can't do that if you're going to ask for sponsors. So I cannot go to any sponsor and say, look at my amazing 1.3 million downloads. It only took me 8 years to get there. And I have a podcast when I fucking feel like it. Excuse me. When I darn feel like it. So that was a mistake. So if you feel like you at some point in time, anytime want to monetize, having that consistency, even if it is you started off once a week and then went to once every other week and then went to once a month, you're still consistent. You can at least show that piece part. That's what I would definitely recommend. The other thing too now though, because I'm not a salesperson and that gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit. The way that I've decided we're going to be starting to do in 2026 is really more through affiliate and the products that we use and we love, because I have no problem standing in front of all you guys and going, this is the best microphone ever, or this is the best, who's he, what's it ever. But I don't want to call the who's he, what's it company and ask them to come sponsor me because that makes me nervous. So for me, that will be very helpful. We'll get some affiliate income that way. A lot of people like the products that we use. And then we do also monetize a little bit on YouTube just because of the luck of the draw. And I have my great YouTube manager. And so we're going to look a little bit harder to pushing our YouTube next year because that's where my money actually is. And and I'm not consistent there either. So if I were consistent there, we would be making a nice little amount of money on YouTube every month, but it has just not happened. So be consistent if that needs to be something in your long-term plan.
Wendy, can I ask you something? So when you had Odyssey come and speak at Pod Tour, they let you control your ads and they give you 50%. Is that right?
I don't remember exactly how they set up their program.
It seemed
It's
like you had a lot more control over the ad process with them, right?
I don't remember, and they've changed. Everybody's changing, and I hear so many platforms all the time, and I forget who's who and who's doing what now. And but it's definitely worth checking those out. Yeah, it was Odyssey. It's AUDACY. Oops, I don't have my chat window
I
open
was
there.
pretty impressed with that because we've had ad placements forever, of course, at our show, and we've tried doing our own and everything. But I thought they had a better deal than most of the places I've looked at. So I do want to look at them for the AI and business podcast.
Yeah, we're getting ready to probably change platforms as well. And so I will be doing a lot of research about where we might want to go next as well. So, but I
So
like that. No,
consistency, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. One other quick thing. What Cait said about the dynamic ads versus the ads that are in her podcast from before, in case people don't understand what she's saying. So you can choose to take ads in and out. And when she's saying planning for ads, so like we didn't do that either. When your cadence, your natural cadence of your podcast, if you are going 30 minutes at it like 15 minutes, you just kind of naturally take a pause and maybe you change your subject or something. That's when you would put in an ad. So it's kind of like you can kind of give yourself segments. If you think of yourself as your show in segments, even though they're not, but if you can kind of mentally that way, if you have a natural pause, that's a great place where you can pop in an ad. And then when you're done with them, you can pull that out and they're not getting money off of you anymore. And so that's what Cait's talking about when you those dynamic ads where you can put them in, take them out, so that you have
But
control over that. You're putting them
yeah,
where you want them.
and most places that offer dynamic ads require you to have a certain amount of downloads per episode or per month before they'll allow you to do that. So it does require not most places you can't just get dynamic ads just when you first start out. Like it requires a certain listenership.
But so consistency came up obviously here at the end and how to that's one could say a mistake, not a mistake, but workflow. How do you make it possible? What are things that you did that really work well and what don't? Cait, maybe we'll even start with you. How do you avoid burnout but stay consistent?
I am the queen of a podcasting workflow. I have a workflow chart that is all filled up. All of my podcasts are recorded a minimum of 3 weeks in advance, sometimes 2 or 3 months in advance. I am the most organized. People are like, how do you do a podcast every week? I'm like, I don't. I recorded 4 episodes 2 months ago that are carrying me through. Like I don't I know what my dates are. I know when I have to have them in. I have everything just very organized. So
And was
that's
that
easy for
something
me.
you always did, or did you feel like there were some mistakes you made in the beginning where suddenly
In
you were
the
like, oh my God, I've
beginning,
got no episodes. What do I do?
yeah,
Or
that's only happened to, in 5.5 years, 6 years, that's only happened to me like once.
wow.
I have that has not been my experience because I'm too type A for that. So that did not happen to me. But I think that in the beginning I almost did too many ahead of time. So people were recording with me in April and I was like, this will release in September.
Right.
So I was too far ahead at some point. Like I batched episodes I batched episodes in the beginning by accident. Right. I did those 35 interviews in 7 weeks. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But then I realized that having the episodes and then being able to space them out and put them week by week was much easier for me than trying to keep up with finding a new person every week. Like that was really stressful for me. So from that point, I've been always a month or two ahead. of my schedule since that time. So I do batch episodes. I record 2 or 3 at a time, so I don't have to think about it. And then I'm in, like you were saying earlier, Elizabeth, like you have to prep for people and you have to do, yes. And if I'm doing 3 episodes in a week, that's the week where I'm reading their books and I'm doing it all, like that's where my energy is doing, and it's easier for me to chunk it that way. And like if I had to do one person on a random Tuesday and another person on like a Friday 2 weeks later, I might be a mess. But if I put them all together, then I'm like, I got to read these 3 books and get this shit done, you know? Excuse my French.
Beautiful. I know they have a great batch discomfort. So if there are things that make you just uncomfortable, just batch it all together. In this case, hopefully it's something that isn't uncomfortable, but the batching works. Elizabeth, how about for you guys? What do you guys do?
We have a Cait.
You have a cake.
Basically, um, we have an assistant, and she works for us part-time, but she's the one who lines up all the guests. She does all of that. She figures like if we're going to do a rerun, she picks the rerun. Like she's super organized, super good. She knows all our passwords. She knows all our handles. We just go to her. We go, Alicia, what was the handle for our Instagram account again? And oh, here it is. All so basically, we don't have. I work at the law firm doing the marketing, and that's a job by itself. So neither one of us has the time to do it. So we've hired somebody super good.
And you
Um,
did that from the very beginning, or did you feel like
no, I was doing it all to
you were
start.
doing it?
And
So
it
it was,
was all I was doing almost. Like
mm.
I had this schedule Monday through Friday because emailing, we're doing more now than we were before, but emailing the people, talking to the people, making sure they come, answering their questions the day of, sending them a thank you note afterwards, and telling them when we expected their episode to come out and all that stuff. I mean, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And Wendy, how about for you? Workflow? Well, there isn't any. When you
How
feel
did
like
you
it.
know? Yeah, it
And we would say
sucks.
maybe that is that's something you
I
will get better at. Or
I
not.
am looking for an assistant if anybody. So I've decided this is what I've decided. This is my intention for 2026. It's actually my intention for Podfest that's coming up in January is that I'm going to be looking for someone that wants to work with me, that wants to start off more in like a VA position, but then I want this person to become my a producer, an assistant producer, and then I want them to be a producer, and then I want them to take off. So I'm looking to, if you know of anybody who wants to start off at really little bit of money, but really want to get in the weeds and learn how to do this. And then I want them to be a podcast producer at the end of the process. So, because I want to start a network, and I want to start a network where people that want to talk about their authentic lifestyles and their authentic love styles can share all their love and life about things. And so that's what I need an assistant for. So there you go, universe. I'm putting it out to you guys and the universe. So there we go.
I love it.
But
That's amazing. Yes.
yes, but about that piece too, though. So yeah, workflow. I don't really have any, and I highly recommend it. I
We
really,
love that. We all want to be Cait when we grow up.
yeah, I totally did. I put that. Yeah, I put that in chat. I'm like, I totally want to be Cait when I grow up. I hope it's not too late. It might be just a little bit too late,
Well,
but
Hey, but you already put it out there, and Sabrina is
somebody.
interested. So here you go. The universe is
Sabrina. Oh,
responding.
so can I put? So do we? Are we at?
Yes,
Can
I'm
I?
going to give you guys final words. One last piece of advice that you would give to people, or one mistake that you wish you didn't make. If there are any other questions, please pop them in the chat, and then also any last announcements or offers. Where can we all find you? And I know Wendy, you've got a big announcement about Podfest, and Elizabeth, you're going to be speaking there. So. Uh, why don't I go, Cait, on this one? One last piece of advice, and then how can we find you?
Do not take yourself too seriously. This is a podcast. You can delete it if it sucks. Just do it. Don't take yourself too seriously. That's my only advice. You can find Fried at Fried, the Burnout Podcast, anywhere you listen to podcasts, and that will lead you to all things Cait Donovan and Burnout.
Amazing. And you're a speaker, you've got coaching programs, you got it all. Amazing. So if you need to know anything about burnout, she's your person. Elizabeth, let's hear. You are speaking. It's very exciting at
Yeah.
Podfest, which we're going to hear all about. And I think somebody might have a special offer. So, but one piece of advice and tell us just a little bit about Podfest.
Okay.
Your talk there.
My talk. Yeah. So really, I mean, I really feel like the biggest mistake we made was misnaming it at the very beginning. So I have people that come to me and they want to name it something. I'm like, look, the first 3 words you have to put your main keyword in the first 3 words of the title because that's what everybody's going to see. And people, yeah, Joe Rogan, yeah, but you're not going to be Joe Rogan overnight. And people want to know what it's about. So I would be very careful choosing the title. And
Great.
then what I've been doing a lot of work with, and it's paid off for Gearhart Law. And we're still trying to nail down exactly what it is, but doing a lot of work trying to be the answer on ChatGPT. So Gearhart Law is coming up as the answer on ChatGPT quite a number of times. It's been increasing. We're doing a lot of stuff in the background for the law firm marketing. So the name of the talk I'm giving is Top 5 Tips to Influence What ChatGPT Says About You in Your Podcast. And it's going to include this like behind the scenes marketing stuff you need to do to get noticed, to have them have the, because here's the thing, my first slide is why would we do this? Right now, people might go to Spotify or these other places to find a podcast. I find it the organization of those hideous, but people, maybe not today or tomorrow, but very soon, because the use of ChatGPT is increasing so rapidly. People are just going to start asking ChatGPT for the podcast they should listen to,
Or other
and
LLMs,
and
yeah.
they're going to, and maybe even for an episode. And so you want to show up there. So this talk I'm giving is going to be about ways to show up when that happens.
Nice. Awesome. And we can find you where you also have an amazingly beautiful podcast studio
Yeah.
in Summit, New Jersey for anybody local. And where can we
Right
find
now I'm using gearmediastudios@gmail.com because I had problems with my website, which is, I've had a lot of growing pains with this studio, which we will not get into now, but gearmediastudios@gmail.com.
Amazing. Thank you. And then Wendy, if you could close us out, one final piece of advice, and how can we find you, your podcast, and anything you want to say about Podfest?
Okay, so my final piece of advice will be to find a community that supports you and can help you grow and just be there for you in this journey because podcasting can sometimes be very isolating. Uh, some of us started in our closet. Kate's in her, what'd you call it? Your shop, your cloffice.
Office.
My
Yeah,
Cloffice.
office.
Office. I love that. I'm gonna have to steal that one. So find a community and people that can support you. You already do. You have this amazing group right here. But don't be afraid to look outside of that, like for instance, coming to Podfest. So in the chat, I do want to offer you guys. So Podfest, in case you don't know about it, we are besides the longest running conference, it's a 3-day conference. We have about 7 tracks running at any particular time, and there will be over we have over 150 or 160 speakers that are or sessions that are happening over those 3 days. We also have the podcast Hall of Fame ceremony that will be on Friday night as well, and there's just a ton of stuff that's going on, so I can't even begin to explain all of it. We do film, we do comedy, we do just a ton of different stuff. I have a very special offer for you guys in the link, that Eventbrite link. That is a 20% off discount code. We give 10% discount codes off to people. We don't give 20% discount codes. So use it well, share it with people, and then I'll get in a lot of trouble for it, but I don't care because I'm the director, so I can do it. We really don't do 20%. And I do them when I go out to very special events. So I didn't even do this at the pod tour. This is something for you guys. So it's special. My email is wendy@podfestexpo.com. So for those of you that are interested or have thoughts or ideas for me about how I can have someone help me, I appreciate it. Somebody folks put some stuff in the chat. I actually have looking for some VAs before too as well. So, but reach out to me. And then in case you're interested, my podcast is the Accidental Swingers Podcast. Yes, that's actually what it's called. Did you just That's actually how you spell it, and that's exactly what it is. So, and you can find us on any place you can find podcasts. You can find us on YouTube. So yeah, so I would love to. Any questions? I also want to say to you all, if you have questions, thoughts, ideas, what can I do at Podfest? What is that like? Our community is amazing. And we have a hugely vibrant, actually, I'm going to put it in the chat also. We have a vibrant community on Facebook. You can join our community there. That is a great way to start to build community, to ask questions, to be able to say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Can somebody help me with this? I need a guest. I need different things. Oh, I can't find my link for my thing. But we have an amazing community. We also have a newsletter that goes out each week called The Messenger. So let me put that in here for you both. And that's another way for you all so that you can stay connected with us as well. So put that in the chat. But that we are, the Podfest is we're going to have almost 2,000 people there this year. And it's growing exponentially. We had, like I said, it was our 12th year. They started off the first event, had 15 people. And we'll be up to almost 2,000 this year. So we're really excited, and we would love to have you there and be a part of it. So if there's
Question,
anything I could do, let me know.
Sorry, question in the chat. Can anybody access it online? Do they have online or like streaming access, or you could purchase it after the fact, right?
Unfortunately, we are not doing it as a virtual event this year. I don't know. Last year we did not. You had to attend to be able to purchase the videos. We may end up doing something where we're taking all of that and putting it in a library that we might do like a Podfest kind of a library membership thing or something like that, where we might be able to do that. But right now we don't have plans to release that virtually or to sell the recordings afterwards. That if you weren't there at the event. So
Okay. Neil, it sounds like this would be the perfect place for you to come start your podcast and you'd have guests streaming through the halls. So
Yeah, see,
I
Wendy, that's one
also
thing you
highly
guys,
recommend it.
yeah, Wendy, that's
yeah.
one thing you guys need to talk about more. I'm sorry. Is
What's that?
that you can find people for your podcast and you can find podcasts to be on, and you can do a podcast at the event and be on a podcast at the event. I'm going to try to get as many people as I can on my podcast while I'm there. And I
Yeah.
think, especially for people starting out, to be able to get on podcasts and get people for their podcasts, Podfest is incredible for that.
I would
Thank you
agree.
for saying that, Elizabeth. Yeah, I kind of forget because it's a conference of, 1,500 podcasters. So everyone's walking around with microphones, and I forget to tell people, of course, you can interview people, and of course you can talk to people, and there's people standing in the bathroom practically interviewing each other. Yes, absolutely. We have some of the exhibitors will set up podcasting booth spaces. We pride ourselves in having tons of area for you guys to network and sit and talk and put your microphone down on the table and connect with each other. And that's what it's all about. So absolutely, you will find a ton of people. And you never know if you can afford the VIP ticket. I would buy it, by the way, because I have a great story of a friend, my new friend that I met last year at Podfest, and she was sitting in the VIP lounge just shooting the crap with some guy, and it turns out it's John Lee Dumas, and who is the Entrepreneurs on Fire podcast, who is one of the biggest podcasters in the world, and she is on his podcast, and he's going to be on hers, and all this other kind of stuff. It's just the guy that she's talking to in the VIP lounge, and that there's a lot of that happening around Podfest. So because we're podcasters, we're not movie stars, and so you don't know who you're standing next to, and then all of a sudden you realize, holy cow, it's like somebody really, really important or really cool, or you hear their voice and you're like, wait a minute, I know that voice. So it's a really, really neat event, and we just have a ton of stuff going on. It's in Orlando. In 1 month, we start 1 month, I think, from today, or from yesterday actually, and it's just an amazing, amazing event.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody, for showing up. And thank you, Wendy, Cait, for joining us, Elizabeth, as always, for being a fabulous host and guest. And so many inspiring notes. I think the key takeaway is just do your thing your way and get going.
That's really it. That's really it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Take care. And this will be this has been recorded. It will be posted. If you missed something, want something, it will be on Gear Media Studios, correct? No.
Yeah,
Podcast. Where is
Dear
it?
Media Studios
Gear
YouTube
Media Studios.
on our
Okay.
YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Um,
Okie doke. Awesome.